Right, I'm back with this one. I'm sorry, Axe Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe issues shock apology as war with Nigel Farage turns toxic. Well, war is a kind of like loaded word, so dispute maybe. With Nigel Farage turns toxic. Didn't Nigel, they rang the police on Rupert, and I think Rupert has reported the whole of Reform to police. Have I got that right? Because to be fair, I've given up the will to live with these men. But anyway, I think that's what's happened. So let's jump in and see what Dan says. Come on, Dan.
Very, very difficult and upsetting to cover. But my God, it is important. And this is why I thank God that we have men like Rupert Lowe who are prepared to put their money where their mouth is already. He has put £5,000 of his own money, matching a donation from Ben Habib earlier today. Here's how it's going to work in Rupert Lowe's words. He says, today I am launching a national inquiry into the rape gang scandal.
Right, well done.
It will focus on 3 questions. What happened? How did it happen? And why was it allowed to happen?
These are the 3 pertinent questions, all of them. And keeping the remit sort of focused. What happened? How did it happen? And why was it allowed to happen? Kind of does encompass a lot of things, doesn't it? The thing is, Nigel distanced himself from this and didn't, well, he turned down meeting any of the survivors and victims of this scandal, and refused to sort of talk about it openly or go into bat for them. So his thing is also, as soon as he got into power, he then started saying, well, got his feet under the table in the House of Parliament is what I mean. Then he was against mass deportations, and I heard, was it Tice or somebody that was speaking on behalf of Tice, speculating and saying it's because Reform aren't after those votes of people that have already voted for them and are likely to vote for them again. They're after the middle ground people that have never voted for them and wouldn't vote for them. So in other words, they're trying to turn hovering Labour voters, or say right-wing socialists, right-leaning socialists, sort of, to left-leaning liberals, maybe. That type of thing is what he's trying to pick up. Or right-leaning liberals. Yeah, Gert, concentrate. Yeah, so, and of course, the backbone of Reform is just the ordinary indigenous working class and upper working, lower middle class, and probably some middle class people, if not maybe some upper middle class, although they do tend to be, because when you're wealthy you can have the affectations of being a socialist, can't you, without any of the hardships of having to suffer the effects of socialism. So there's that. And yeah, and I thought to myself, well, at the end of the day, these are the people that he wants to turn, because he's decided that he's definitely going to be the Prime Minister in 2029. And the people that already vote for him or already have voted for him, even if they're disaffected, aren't likely to vote for, say, Kemi or another 5 years of Starmer. So basically he doesn't have to play to the gallery anymore. When it came to the election, even though they don't agree with the way he's messianic and he's kind of bombastic and he's definitely a me man, isn't he? Grandiose last, really. And so he knows that those people, despite their better feelings, will only have him to vote for. So he doesn't have to pander to their votes. It's the point I'm trying to make. So he is looking always for the people that haven't voted for him and wouldn't vote for him unless he says or does something to make them vote for him, just to give him that edge that will give him the majority in the 2029 election. And that means staying clear of any mention of Tommy Robinson, any mention of grooming gangs, and any mention of mass deportations or deportations in and of themselves, or even anything to do with stopping the boats. These are the people that he's hoping to turn. I mean, he's just mental. I'm sorry, I'm entitled to my opinion. I don't know what world he thinks he's living in, but there you go. This is his idea. This is what he's come up with, or the people that pull his strings have come up with and have decided that this is the best way to go. And it actually isn't. It's the other way. But as I say, they know they've got everybody kippered, because anybody, say if there was an election tomorrow, people that, even though they don't like him and don't like the way he's behaved in Reform and all the machinations of Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe and this, that and the other, would have nowhere else to vote apart from him. So he's already got their private members in his pocket, darling. I don't want to say anything rude on YouTube, but you know what I mean? He's already got them in his pocket, so he doesn't really have to play to the gallery with them. And that shows a kind of Machiavellian sort of inertia on his point of view, doesn't it? Because what is so wrong in speaking up for the victims of this grooming gang scandal? It doesn't matter what ethnicity or class they're from. They're human beings. They're members of the British public, of who he wants to represent by being Prime Minister. He should have held his hand out to them. He should have at least met them and spoken to them. But no, he's very much a man's man, isn't he, old Nigel? We're just waiting for the dirt to come out on him. One day it will come out. He's done this or that or the other. You know, you just know it, don't you? Well, that's my perception. It might not be true. I mean, I don't know. I don't care. But yes, he's no better than he should be.
A qualified panel will be appointed to oversee the inquiry with a legal advisory team to support the panel throughout the inquiry. There will be 3 stages:
right.
Evidence collection, public hearings, report, publication. There will be
you see, Rupert Lowe is giving the people what the people want here, which is kind of the point of having elected representatives. When the people en masse have asked for inquiries, every party, including Reform, have turned their back on them and said, well, there's no need for that, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course there's no need for that, because it would uncover some very uncomfortable truths, wouldn't it, really, darlings? So, yeah, and for Rupert Lowe to put himself on the line and say, well, no, this is what the public want. I'm an elected public servant. I'm going to give them what they want, what we need nationally, is a sort of peace and reconciliation kind of tribunal thing. What is it? Oh, it's inquiry, tribunal, same thing, isn't it, really? Where people get to speak in public and give their accounts of what happened, and even maybe official people, that can give their accounts of what happened. And maybe there's people like Maggie Oliver, that was a police lady, but was prevented from actually being a police lady and operating within the parameters of being a police lady and arresting people. Basically, she had to leave to help the girls. She couldn't help the girls from her position as being a police officer. So that would be interesting, that anybody and all people like the headmaster that was paid to shut up and not speak anymore about it. NDAs were issued willy-nilly, weren't they? That would be worth uncovering, but of course that is what the elite don't want uncovered, because even though they might be 5 or 6 hands separated from the actual coalface of criminality, if you followed the guideline back, if you know what I mean, you'd find that it's actually somebody in a position of power that allowed somebody else to do something, that allowed somebody else to do something, that allowed this to happen. And that is what's being covered up. It's just Machiavellian. It's my word of the day today.
Secure submission process for evidence, and the hearings will be live streamed. In non-attendance, questions will still be put on the record and evidence examined. The findings will be compiled and a report will be published.
That's good.
Any surplus funds raised will be donated.
But whatever you do, don't let John Wedger on the bleeding tribunal, because he will get in there, co-opt it, make it all about him and start spouting a load of old nonsense, calling children the B word. Bleeding live action role play any day of the week, that man.
Charities supporting victims, and every penny spent will be transparently published. Extensive discussions have taken place over the last couple of weeks in regards to the participants of the panel and, of course, the inquiry itself. More details will be announced soon, with the option to put yourself forward.
Yeah.
Witness protection and safeguarding will be prioritised.
Well, that's going to be a massive thing, is the witness protection and the safeguarding of the victims and the people around the victims that want to give their account. You can't really just say this happened and then everybody look the other way and carry on. It has to be looked into. It has to be understood how this was allowed to go. I mean, a lot of us out here already know the answers, darlings. But maybe there should be a reckoning where people are brought to account, because to this date, nobody has gone to prison or nobody has even gone to court for any of this. Guilt by admission is also a thing, rather like lying by omission is a thing, So... And to have it all out in the open, the social workers, how they felt, the teachers, the people whose job it was to prevent this happening, and had to turn a blind eye, Did they have to turn a blind eye? Were they made to turn a blind eye? It needs to be talked about. And there's so many things that I could say on here, but I dare not, because I'll lose my channel.
Finally, I would like to apologise.
Right.
Promises were made by my former party about holding an inquiry, and those promises were not kept.
No.
I tried to push behind the scenes, but evidently I did not go far enough.
He said that in the run-up to the election, darling. After the election, just forgot about all that.
And I am sorry. I do not believe that making such bold claims, which gave so much hope, and then failing to deliver is an honest way of conducting politics, particularly on an issue of this magnitude. Positive press about a potential inquiry was accepted and used for political gain by Reform and Farage, but no real action was taken. That does not sit right with me at all. When I make a promise, I keep it. I stated on March the 12th I would do this, and I am doing it.
Yeah.
We are now ready for step one. And
I mean, at the end of the day, if he's doing it by crowdfunding, and he's doing it off his own back, will it have the same impact, or will it just be from the point of view of saying it's been done? And sort of, I don't know, like a sticking plaster to the whole event, so that even though the other people, officials and people in government are against it, in the future they can say, well, we've had an inquiry, even though it's been crowdfunded by the public and carried out by Rupert Lowe and members of Reform. I think it's Ben Habib, isn't it? Is he still in Reform? It's hard to tell. So yes, this is a thing, and it's quite a complex thing. And it's made even more complex by me not being able to exactly express what I really think and say and feel, and what the real problem is behind all this. I'm just not allowed to say it, which is another reason why we need an inquiry. People should be allowed to speak freely about what they know, what they think, what they've seen, their insights, their perceptions. Obviously not me, I'm just an onlooker, aren't I? A member of the public. But this is what, if I feel like this and I'm not directly involved in it, you can imagine how people feel that are involved in it. People need to be able to speak freely. It doesn't matter who the perpetrators were. The fact is, the victims were children, and the perpetrators are very secondary in this. I don't care if they're green men from Mars. We need to know what happened, how it happened, and why it was allowed to happen and to carry on unchallenged for so long, for generations of children.
It's just the start of the process.
Yeah.
The mass rape of working class white girls by mainly Pakistani men is a rotting stain on our country's history. This inquiry will not be able to fully deliver justice, but it can shine a light on the horror and open people's eyes to the vast scale of...
In fairness, I think the bigger issue would be what culture. It's challenging the culture, which is something we've never done. It's come hither one and all. If you need a translator and you need this, you need that, you need special privileges with regards to dietary preparations, with regards to spiritual allowances made, and it goes on and on and on and doesn't stop. And when you actually look at the culture that some of these men come from, where it also happens in the Sudan and places like that, but when you look at that culture and the way they actually do treat young women and girls, and even old women, well, just women generally, you know, maybe that is what needs to be challenged in a Western free world of which they've moved to get away from whatever it is they've left, but have sort of brought those bits that sort of benefit them with them. Am I allowed to say that? Because we're also talking about the female mutilation thing that seems to be an issue, and also the enforced marriages, child brides, and this, that, and the other that goes on. And again, it's always the women. It's the women that the victims, whether they're white or whether they're, you know, ethnically from the Indian subcontinent. Let's just say that. God Almighty. Oh, do you remember those days when you could say anything and people would say, "Oh, blah blah blah, it's a free country, I'll say what I want"? Do you remember? Post-war Britain, I think it was called.
The vile abuse and exploitation. We shouldn't have to do this. It should be the government, but as we know, that is not happening. So that
to be honest, I think if it was the government, they would manipulate it and get it in a way that it was actually these poor the poor perpetrators, they didn't understand British mores and social, acceptable. It would just be BS, in other words, is what I'm trying to say. So maybe somebody that is 5 or 6 degrees of separation away from the actual epicenter of this, which you could put Habib and Lowe into that category. That could be a thing. But of course, who's going to chair it? Because I'm not hearing Lowe putting himself forward. And I mean, if he does, that's a thing as well. And if Habib does, that's a thing. There'd probably be maybe on the tribunal. But who would be the person to chair it? Where would you find somebody right across the globe? Because they had enough trouble finding someone for the child abuse inquiry, didn't they? That didn't happen. It just fizzled out, didn't it? What I recall.
Now lies with us. Any support you give is appreciated. There will be more updates very soon. So, Connor Tomlinson, Rupert Lowe is putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
The rape gang inquiry is happening. Sadly, it just won't be run by Reform UK.
Is it a kind of cosmetic thing, and is it a thing where he's actually sticking to things? I don't want to be negative about it, and that's I don't want to be like that. Give him, let him have the benefit of. Just let's not do that. Is what I'm trying to say. I'm actually lost for words. I'm so exhausted as well. Yeah, so we don't know, and it's hard to sort of say, he's only doing it for this reason or that reason. I think it's the best way of putting it. Again, I'm trying to be very careful with what I say.
Yeah, and I think we
I'll get jumped on
if
by
we are financially able,
my stalkers.
donate to this. There's already about 2,000 people putting in small to medium-sized donations to this effort, which I suppose shows that it's not just the online right that support Rupert Lowe, but people of conscience willing to put...
This is a new word as well, isn't it? The online right. Who is the online right? I know what's his name? The Mayor of London thinks that everybody is right wing. I mean, anybody that doesn't like rain is right wing, according to him. Oh dear, it's just so eager to get out there and give everyone a label. It's usually a negative one, and it's a label designed to put you back in your box and stop you from talking, really.
Where their mouth is to support this vital inquiry into truth and justice. And it is unfortunate that it takes Rupert Lowe alone at the moment, but anyone at all, to bring a private inquiry towards this, because the Labour Party have decided time and time again to vote down a national inquiry, most likely because it indicts lots of their local councillors and politicians.
Well done, I'm glad you said that, darling. That's what I was too scared to say earlier. Well done, darling, well done. That's what I was too scared to say, because the epicentre of where these crimes proliferated did seem to be embedded in what was essentially a Labour strongholds, and that is a ripple effect throughout the whole of the town or city or whatever that this has occasioned, because as we all know, Labour does love lots of people with their snouts in the trough, rather than the Conservatives that believe in freedom, don't they? Centralised government and not telling people what to do. So many jobs would depend, and so many people had to turn a blind eye for this to have been allowed to carry on as long as what it did.
Police and crime commissioners and the like for not investigating this worst example of child abuse in British history for decades, and B, because it indicts their client groups, because they constantly pander to particularly the Pakistani community, with Naz Shah campaigning in
Well, I think as well, if you remember Keith Vaz, does anybody remember him? That's an interesting story. I think he might be the poster child of some of this stuff. But again, it was kind of like covered over as an aberration and a one-off. I think socialists in particular would, just for the vote, I don't know, that came out wrong, I don't mean just for the votes, but to have their ethnic credentials, we're one happy big multicultural society, blah-de-bleed and blah. And conversely, the Conservatives, if you're successful, like a lot of migrating people are that come into this country, they make a huge success of themselves, fair play to them. Success means money, money means power, and Conservatives love a bit of money. And if you give them money, they give you power. It's very simple, it's a very easy transaction. So they're in bed one way or the other with either the Labour or the Conservatives in the strongholds of which this crime seems to be endemic and ingrained.
But also the Muslim voting bloc. They're petrified of losing them to an openly sectarian Muslim party in future elections. They've already got the likes of Wes Streeting and Jess Phillips' seats under threat within a whisker of a couple of hundred votes to be lost to pro-Gaza candidates the last election. They had other shadow cabinet ministers lose their places. So this is the reason that Labour have blocked this. However, I think everyone should be donating to this if they can. I think you should be providing evidence to this if you can. I plan to do both and have already been happy to say I've offered my services in terms of research, the reporting that I've done on this to try and contribute to this inquiry. And the need for the inquiry, even though it's going to be private and won't have statutory powers to compel people to give evidence, is twofold. The first of all is to sort of build public pressure and awareness about this. It shows the fact that this entire conversation was ignited by a discussion with Sam Bidwell, Max Tempers, and then Elon Musk, that actually the internet really can be real life, because without this discussion it wouldn't have reached headlines again.
I think with Musk behind LOWE, which he's pretty much has thrown his cap behind LOWE, and he sort of disdains Nigel for not having more backbone on this issue. It's a massive problem. But there again, it has happened to working class girls. And working class is not so much Nigel's cup of tea. And working class girls, even worse. I mean, they might wear leggings, darlings. Do you know what I mean? Frightfully common. There is all that. You often find that the middle classes are the biggest snobs going. Anyway, whether they vote socialist, or they vote Tory, or they vote deform, or whatever they vote, they're all crashing snobs. So, good luck to Rupert. I hope he does it. Fair play to him, and Ben Habib. Love them both. I love them because they're mavericks and they go with what they believe in, rather than they could have just took the money and shut up, couldn't they? So yeah, fair play to them. They're doing what I'd do. I'd do exactly that, and I'd F myself up completely as well. I've done it enough times in my life, so I recognise when somebody else is doing it. Fair play to you, Rupert. Go, just keep going.